My name is Keith Brown with Pluralsight, and I'm going to be covering ASP.NET membership in this module. We're going to be focusing on membership and roles, the provider architectures, which are underneath all of the stuff, the plumbing. You'll see some of that. We'll also be taking a look at some of the security controls that are there that make your life easy when you're building these sorts of sites that require authentication and roles. And we'll look at the provider architecture. Now, membership came about because when ASP.NET was first released in its first version, ASP.NET version 1, the team came up with something called forms authentication. It was this cookie-based mechanism that allowed you to issue a cookie that represented a login, but didn't really provide any support for getting that initial login or managing users. So you had to supply your own authentication mechanism. If you wanted to use passwords and usernames, you had to build a database basically of your own and implement all that. And that's a lot of work. If you didn't have a security expert on your team, that was kind of hard. There's nothing wrong with doing that today. In fact, a lot of people do if you have security expertise on your staff or it's available to you. But if you're one of those shops that don't have access to a security expert, then membership is a great way to go. Membership supplies a reasonable implementation of a username and password database and includes roles as well, so you can put users into roles, and these are all stored in a database. There's features that you might want, like password complexity requirements. You can control how long the password has to be. You can just feel comfortable in that idea that your passwords are hashed. User passwords are hashed before they're stored in the database, which is a reasonable way to secure them in the database. Passwords can be reset by users if you want them to via a security question. Very typical feature that websites have today. There's also role management and membership management, so user and role management through APIs that I'll show you how to use later on. And there's a bunch of controls that allow you to do that stuff as well. So there's controls that have to do with the login, like a create user wizard, so that you can create users or users can create accounts themselves. There's a login control that lets you implement a login page in one line of code. So all of this infrastructure used together, it leads to this notion of RAD development, rapid application development. You can have a web application with a user and role database running literally in minutes, and I'm going to show you an example of it. Just a few lines of code, one quick change to your config and for a default application, and you're up and running. Because of the fact that this is what this is designed for, it's really not going to suffice if you need strong authentication like you want certificates or federation. That's going to be fairly awkward to use membership. But that doesn't mean you still can't use some of this infrastructure like these controls and the role manager. So this is a good talk for anyone to listen to, even if you're not going to be doing RAD. But let me go ahead and start off by showing you a demo where we'll go ahead and do some RAD development and just hack up a quick website with a username and password database and get it done in just a couple of lines of code.